It's the calm before the storm of the NBA. There's 2 games left of the regular season, and then we have playoff basketball. So the teams that aren't in the play-in are currently tanking for lottery odds, while the remaining teams are jousting for playoff seeding. So in this video, I will be using a tier list to rank the 2023 NBA playoff teams. Alright, so let's get into the tier list. First we have the Milwaukee Bucks, who are without a doubt the title favorite. They're currently plus 250 to win it all on FanDuel. That's the best odds out of any team. They have the second best defensive rating in the league. They have probably not the defensive player of the year in Brook Lopez, but definitely a defensive first team guy. And they have Giannis, who's another depoy. So an elite defense. They only have the 15th best offensive rating. They do have some concerns offensively, specifically their wing creation. We saw last year when Chris Middleton went down, they really didn't have that wing scorer, so they really struggled with Boston. And Chris Middleton, he's been really off and on this year. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries. He just got an MRI last night on his knee. It looks like he'll be back by the playoffs, but it's another thing to keep an eye on. I understand Drew Holiday is playing at an elite level defensively, and he's playing at an all-star level offensively, which he's always been a good offensive player, but he's really taken it to another level this year. But even still, that wing creation is kind of concerning. But still the best player in basketball in Giannis, so they're still the title favorite. Next we have the Boston Celtics, another contender. I would say they're a title favorite, not the title favorite, or the favorite to come out east, but they are a contender. They're the reigning Eastern Conference champions, and they're elite on both ends of the ball. They're third in defensive and offensive rating, so they have all these offensive weapons and defensive weapons. They're really just an elite two-way team. They have 4 40% three-point shooters. That's the most in the league. Al Horford, Malcolm Brogdon, Sam Hauser, and Grant Williams. Grant Williams is 39.9%. I'll round it up for him. Their two-way abilities, it's really shown through Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, 2 All-NBA wings who are elite. But there are some concerns, like they have a first-year coach. I know last year Ime Udoka was really good as a first-year coach, but Joe Mazzulla has been kind of up and down. I still think he's a good coach, but he still has a lot of things to figure out, and when you're trying to compete for a title, you might not want that. So next we have the Philadelphia 76ers, another contender. They're also good on both sides of the basketball. They're second in offensive rating and 8th in defensive rating. They're also the best in the league in three-point percentage, but they only shoot the 16th most in the league, so it's not that high of a volume. They're probably going to have the MVP in Joel Embiid. He's the favorite right now. Say what you want about the discussion, who you think should have the award, but Joel Embiid is definitely that guy. He's definitely an MVP caliber guy. They do have concerns as well. They have Doc Rivers as their head coach, who can always be a little sketchy in the playoffs besides 2008. And along with that, Embiid has never had playoff success. He's never made it out of the second round, and he has his injury concerns as well. And playoff James Harden, another guy who's off and on in the playoffs, and he has injury concerns as well. So if they don't have success this year, if they fall short in the first, second round, they're going to be a team to watch this offseason, but I still think they're championship contenders. Next, the 4th seed in the East is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't think they're there yet. I'm putting them as a second round team. They'll likely play the Knicks in the first round. Actually, I think that's locked. So they'll play the Knicks in the first round. That'll be a lot of fun. Donovan Mitchell is from New York, going against the Knicks. Everyone thought he was going to the Knicks. As far as their ceiling, I don't quite think they're there yet. They have they're first in defensive rating, 7th in offensive rating. They have an all defensive team anchor in Evan Mobley, plus Jared Allen, who's also an elite defender. So they're definitely a hard matchup for these teams out east with these monster bigs, but I just don't think they're there yet. I don't think Evan Mobley's there yet. Maybe next year. Maybe next year they'll be a championship contender, but really not now. They don't have that much playoff experience. Of course, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen has some, Karis LeVert has some, but as far as Evan Mobley and Darius Garland, they haven't been in the playoffs, so I think they might be too young and a year or two from contention. Still, I think they'll beat the Knicks. That would be my prediction. And now we have the Knicks, who I also say their ceiling is a second round team. They could beat the Cavs. They're 4th in offensive rating. That's led by their star point guard Jalen Brunson, who I don't think he's all NBA, but he's been playing at a really high level, averaging 25 points per game. The Knicks aren't as hot as they were a few months ago when they first traded for Josh Hart, but they're still playing pretty good basketball, especially in these last few games when a lot of these teams are tanking. One thing to keep an eye out on is Julius Randle. He's shooting 42% from the field and 29% from three in his last 15 games. And that's a concern. You don't want him turning back into 2022 Julius Randle. And the thing with the Knicks is I don't think they're there yet. They don't have that superstar player that can elevate them to a championship contending team. But it's good because they have a ton of assets to do that this summer. They have all their picks. They have some Dallas picks. And they have RJ Barrett, Quentin Grimes, some interesting young players, Obi Toppin maybe. So maybe they could swing for the fences in case a superstar becomes available. But as far as this year, I think their ceiling is a second round team. Next, we have the other team in New York. We have the Brooklyn Nets, who I think are a first round exit. The Nets aren't as good as their record says. They're 10-12 post All-Star. Obviously, when you blow up your team, you trade Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. You're not going to be as good as you were. Mikal Bridges, he's been great. He's been a great story. I think next year he'll probably be an all-star. Maybe he's having a James Harden, Houston arrival. So we're seeing a superstar be born. But as far as the playoffs this year, I don't think they're really making any noise. They do have lots of large wings who can really be a hard matchup for any team. They might push a series to 6, but they're not winning a round. Next, we have the Miami Heat, who is our first wild card team. So the Heat, they're pretty unique. So they're 9th in defensive rating, but they're last in the league in points per game. Their offense is slow, and they do not score many points. They really lack depth. They haven't managed their assets or their contracts well. They gave Kyle Lowry way too much money, and if you watched Kyle Lowry in that last year in Tampa, you could tell you shouldn't be paying him that much money. So that was a miss. Duncan Robinson was a miss. Tyler Hero, they gave him a big bag. Tyler Hero is good, but it's a lot of money for Tyler Hero. But at the same time, they were one shot away from the finals last year. If Jimmy Butler made that 3 against Boston, the Heat are in the finals, and who knows what happens against Golden State. That's why they're really a wild card team, because they have so much playoff experience. They've been in 2 of the past 3 Eastern Conference Finals. That says something. But also, the year after the bubble, they did get swept in the first round, so that's another possibility. Playoff Jimmy Butler, he's legit. He turns it up to another level, and he's one of the best players come April, come May. Next, we have the Atlanta Hawks, who are a first-round exit as well. The Hawks are just the definition of mediocre. They've been around 500 all year. You've seen all the stats of how they've been on these crazy streaks. They're 500 at home, 500 on the road. They've scored like the same exact points as they did allowed. It's actually kind of crazy. And with the Hawks, it's kind of weird. They traded all these assets, not a crazy amount, but they still traded a lot of assets for DeJounte Murray. And last year they had a 43-39 record. This year they have a 41-39 record. They have 2 games left. I believe they're against easy opponents, but they traded all those picks for the same exact record. Doesn't make too much sense to me. We're talking the playoffs this year. DeJounte Murray, it's good to have a defensive guard alongside Trae Young, but even still, if you're going up against Boston or Milwaukee, they're probably losing in 5, if not 4. Next, we have the Toronto Raptors. I think they're a potential playoff team. I really think any of the play-in teams this year could win the play-in games. The Toronto Raptors, they have lots of experience as well as the Heat. Not as much, so that really helps in those like one-game single elimination games. They have a ton of wings, just like Brooklyn, so they could be hard matchups as well. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff lingering around. Like everyone thinks Nick Nurse is getting fired. That's what everyone's saying. So that hanging around the team during the playoffs, that's not something you want. They're a potential playoff team. They're not making any noise in the playoffs though. Next is the Chicago Bulls. So the Chicago Bulls, they're a potential playoff team. They're 12-9 with Patrick Beverley. And Patrick Beverley has never missed the playoffs. So we saw his terrific celebrations last year in the play-in game. So maybe he could rally the Bulls into the playoffs as well. And they do have DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, who could just go off in any given night. Zach LaVine, he once made 13 threes. That could happen any given night. And then performances like that can really just put you into the playoffs if you just win 1 or 2 games. But as far as making a run in the playoffs, don't see it. Don't see them making it out of the first round if they make it there. So now we have the Western Conference and the number 1 seed Denver Nuggets. I'm going to put them in the contender tier list, not the title favorite or the finals favorite out west. So the Nuggets, they're 5th in offensive rating. When you have Nikola Jokic, you're going to have an elite offense. And Jokic, he's probably not going to be winning his 3rd MVP, but he is playing at an MVP level. But a lot of people like to knock Jokic's interior defense, and there is some merit to that. They do allow the 9th most points in the paint, but I would argue that unlike out east, there's not the interior forces like there are out east in a Giannis or Embiid. So there is that in the West, which is a plus for them. But they do have a lot of wild cards on the team. Like Jamal Murray is a big wild card. He's been off and on a lot. You know, if they get Bubble Murray, I think they're probably going to be the team that comes out west. But if not, it's hard to say. And Michael Porter Jr., he's really a streaky shooter. If he's on, he's on. But otherwise, he might just be chucking up a million shots and chucking up a lot of bricks. But the key for the Nuggets is they have to be able to succeed in those non-Jokic minutes. I get it, the rotations shorten in the playoffs, but you still need to succeed when Jokic is on the bench. So next we have the Memphis Grizzlies, who I'm putting in the contender tier list as well. The Grizzlies have been playing really well this season, and lately since Ja Morant came back from his whatever. So the Grizzlies, they have an elite defense. They're 4th in defensive rating, and they have the Defensive Player of the Year in Jaren Jackson Jr. So Triple J has been awesome this year. He was a first-time All-Star, but his defense has been incredible. There's no action down in the paint when he's down low, and he is going to be the Defensive Player of the Year, and defense in the playoffs is huge, but he's another guy who's had injury concerns, so you need that guy to stay healthy in the playoffs, and you need him to stay out of foul trouble. He's gotten better, but that still is very much so a concern. The Grizzlies, they do have a superstar in Ja Morant, who's been playing really well. I would like to think all that stuff is in the past, and we can move on from that. And if so, the Grizzlies, they might be poised to make a finals run. So with the Grizzlies, they are 23rd in the league in 3-point shooting, but they did trade for Luke Kennard, and since Luke Kennard got there, he shot 53% from 3 off 6 per game, and that's 23 games. So it's not a massive sample size, but it's a pretty big sample size. And if he's shooting like that in the playoffs, there's going to be trouble. And the Grizzlies, they do have playoff experience now. Last year, I thought they were kind of in the situation that the Cavs are now. That was like the Cavs, they're in their first year in the playoffs. But the Grizzlies, they went up against the eventual championship team in the Warriors last year. So they know what they're doing. But the Grizzlies, they are missing Steven Adams. So Steven Adams is not their best player, but he is their best vet. And that veteran presence does mean something. So they might miss him. The next team, we have the Sacramento Kings. And I'm going to put them in the finals team, ? Mostly because I don't know if their play style can translate to the playoffs. So they have by far the best offense in basketball. It's really electric. They're 1st in the league in points per game by 3 points. That's a massive margin in points per game when every team is pretty compressed. And they have the number 1 offensive rating as well. And so with the Kings, their massive playoff drought has ended. And because of that, they have a crazy home crowd. The people of Sacramento are fiending for playoff basketball. They have an electric home crowd. And their home record, it's insane, but they're also the only team out west with a winning record on the road. So their style of basketball does translate on the road. Usually you say defense travels. With the Kings, the offense travels. But their defense does not travel, and their defense does not even exist at home either. They're awful in defense. They allow the 5th most points per game in the league. And I think all the teams above them are tanking teams like San Antonio, Houston, that sort of thing. But they do have 2 All-Stars in Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. Domantas Sabonis might be a top 5 finisher and MVP. He's going to be an All-NBA guy. De'Aaron Fox will probably be All-NBA as well. But when you have a playoff drought this long, you're not going to have much playoff experience on your team. Really, it's only Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter. I understand Domantas Sabonis played some when he was younger, But that was really when he was a lot younger player. He wasn't the player he is now, and De'Aaron Fox has never been in the playoffs. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bunch of injuries out west. There's a lot of injury-prone teams. So if that happens, then I could see Sacramento making a run to the finals. But I think a lot of things have to go right for them. Next, we have the Phoenix Suns, the 4 seed, and they are without a doubt a title contender. They're the favorite to come out west, and it's for a good reason. They're undefeated with Kevin Durant. They're 8-0. Kevin Durant, he has not lost many basketball games recently. He has some crazy streaks, like 26-2 in his last 28 games, going back to Brooklyn. But they do have some concerns. I understand they have a lot of playoff experience. They just went to the finals 2 years ago, second round last year. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. But their injury concerns are serious. Kevin Durant has been proven to be an injury-prone player these last few years. I get it, he can come back from an injury and look like Kevin Durant, MVP level, but his injuries are a concern. And Chris Paul hasn't stayed healthy in the playoffs for I don't even know when. He's always dealing with injuries. Even if he's still playing, he's usually playing hurt, as we've seen in these past few years. And yeah, that's a big concern when you're trying to win a championship, because the playoffs, they're like 9 weeks. It's something crazy. And you have games every other day, so it's nonstop basketball, playing 40 minutes a game. And I don't know if 38-year-old Chris Paul can hang with that. So yeah. And their depth, I'm not too worried about their depth. I understand they traded a lot of their depth to Brooklyn, but they did get some buyout candidates like Terrence Ross. Terrence Ross has had some really good games, and they got TJ Warren from Brooklyn. So I'm not too concerned about their depth, but more so just injuries. Next, we have the Los Angeles Clippers, who I'm putting with the Kings as a finals team question mark. So statistically, they have an average defense and an average offense, but they do have the second best 3-point percentage in the NBA, so that's pretty good. So with the Clippers, though, it's really hard to gauge how they're going to be in the playoffs, because they do not take the regular season seriously. They load manage throughout the season. Kawhi and Paul George, they're always getting hurt, but they're also always just taking it easy on them so they don't get hurt. So they're really a whole different team in the playoffs. So if Kawhi Leonard's been playing great, by the way, potentially all NBA. I'm not sure how the games played is going to work out. But Paul George, he sprained his knee on March 21st, and he still hasn't came back yet. So who knows how quickly he'll be able to acclimate back into playoff basketball, or when he's going to come back. And the big question with the Clippers is, can they stay healthy? Can Kawhi Leonard and Paul George stay healthy? And how will Russell Westbrook fit in with playoff basketball with the Clippers? He's kind of gelled in pretty well lately, but you know, Russell Westbrook, you live by Russell Westbrook, you die by Russell Westbrook. So we haven't seen him in the playoffs in a few years, and who knows. So next we have the Golden State Warriors, who I am putting in finals team. But honestly, they're really on their own tier. No one's really on their contender tier list, because they're really just a dark horse contender. That's what I would call them. So last year they had the second best defense in the league. This year it's the 18th. So Steve Kerr is usually a good defensive coach, but he's been missing Andrew Wiggins this year. So Andrew Wiggins is really one of those elite perimeter stoppers, one of those like Mikal Bridges types, who can just clamp up your best player. They had him guard Luka Doncic last year, and he did a great job. Obviously, you can't fully stop Luka, but he made him work for every bucket. And so without him, they've really been a whole different team. He was their second best player in the finals last year. Now, Andrew Wiggins has returned to the Bay. He's been to a few games. He hasn't played yet, and he's going to be out for the rest of the regular season. So he is going to be back about the playoffs, but he hasn't played basketball in a while. The team, can they implement him and just gel immediately? I'm not sure. They do have Gary Payton, the second back. He was key to their playoff run last year, and he has been playing well, but it's really up to Andrew Wiggins gelling. They still have Curry playing at an MVP level. But another thing with the Warriors, 9-30 on the road. Everyone's talking about this, and it's for a legitimate reason. So the Warriors are going to be the 6th seed probably, and by that, they're going to be playing on the road. They're going to not have home court advantage for these series, and that's a pretty big deal, especially in the playoffs. So they're going to have to figure that out if they want to win and go on a run. Next, we have everyone's favorite team, ESPN's favorite team, the Los Angeles Lakers, and they're going in the wild card category. So since the All-Star weekend, really since the trade deadline, the Los Angeles Lakers have had a top 5 defensive rating. Their defense has been awesome, and mainly that's because of Anthony Davis, but they also got guys like Jared Vanderbilt, who, look, you can go on my Twitter. I said Jared Vanderbilt would be their best addition from that trade, and honestly, I think that's true, and I think a lot of people would agree. He's been great. He's really one of those hustle guys who you want in the playoffs. And the Lakers, they finally have competent three-point shooting. Before the trade deadline, they were just chucking up bricks from beyond the arc, and all they could do was drive. And now they've been 36% from beyond the arc since the All-Star break. Obviously, that's not anything terrific, but that's about league average, so it's competent. So Anthony Davis has been playing great. He's been really healthy since January 25th. He's only missed 3 games since then, and that was really for load management. So Anthony Davis, he's been playing healthy. LeBron, he came off that plantar fasciitis, but he's been playing great since. But the question is with the Lakers is, can they stay healthy for 9 weeks of playoff basketball? Look, in a perfect world where LeBron and Anthony Davis, they're staying healthy, if you know they're staying healthy, I put them with contenders. Look, LeBron, he's still one of the top 10 players in the league. He has the most playoff experience out of anyone in the league. And Anthony Davis, he's probably a top 10 player healthy as well. But that's the question. Can they stay healthy? I don't know, so that's why I put them in the wild card. I think they're a really dangerous matchup in the first round for Memphis or Denver or whoever plays them. I don't think those teams will be excited to play the Lakers. But by the second or conference finals, I don't think they'll be there. I think they'll be too banged up, and I don't see them winning at all. But they are dangerous when healthy. So next we have the New Orleans Pelicans, who I have as a first round exit. I think they'll make the playoffs. But yeah, the Pelicans have really been disappointing this year. I made a whole video on them earlier in the season when they were the 1 seed about how excited I was for them. But it's really just been Zion. There's no timetable for the return of Zion. Zion has been ruled out for the play-in, and if I had to guess, I say he probably wouldn't be playing in the playoffs, which is really a bummer because he's really electrifying. He's really fun to watch. But let's talk about the rest of the team. They've had the 6th best defense of the season, but their offense has been lacking. But Brandon Ingram, he's been a monster lately. He's averaging 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists in the last 20 games. He's been playing at a all-star, maybe all-NBA level these past few weeks, and that's not surprising if you watched the Phoenix series last year. He really made the Suns work, and that Brandon Ingram performance is probably why the Suns were so tired when they faced Dallas in the second round. So Brandon Ingram, he's been great, but the rest of the team has been kind of disappointing. They do have some playoff experience, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did what they did last year. They pushed a series out to 6, maybe 7 games, but I don't see them going past Denver. I don't see them going past Memphis. So yeah. Next we have Minnesota. They're a potential playoff team. I don't know. So Kat and Rudy Gobert, they've only played 25 games together. That's kind of concerning when 2 of your best 3 players haven't played much basketball together. And winning the play-in games, I really think just depends on Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards has shown some really great stretches this year, and if Anthony Edwards can continue to play like an all-NBA, all-star caliber player in the play-in, I think he could really take over a single game elimination type format and make the playoffs. But as far as the play-in, or as far as the playoffs, winning a round, don't see it happening at all. Next, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, who've had a great season. A lot of people think they would be tanking for Victor, but that is not the case. They have an all-NBA superstar in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's been truly fantastic this year. He's been electric. When the Thunder let him play basketball games, he's been awesome. Who would have known? So the Thunder, beyond SGA, they have a ton of these big wings that can create very difficult matchups. But they lack good center play. Next year they'll have Chet, so that'll all change. But Jalen Williams, their rookie center, not J-Dub, J-Will, I don't think he's really going to be able to match up against Kat or Rudy Gobert. And beyond that, they don't have much experience. SGA and Dort, they do have some playoff experience, but beyond that, not really. In SGA's playoff experience, he was a lot younger, same with Dort. So this is my tier list. This is my ranking of all the play-in teams. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below about my tier list, about how I rank each team. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know if you think I should have had one team a lot higher, or if you think I'm too high on one team, or if you think that I forgot to mention some facts about a certain team that you think is really important in the playoffs, because every little detail does matter. Like always, I'm Lance with Ball Withdrawal. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, share to your friends. I'll see you guys later. Thanks.